The stars had never looked so cold to Admiral Park Do-hyun. He stood alone on the bridge of the UES Horizon, Earth's greatest warship, watching the holographic feed from the Galactic Council chambers. His hands were clasped behind his back, but his fingers trembled with anger he could not show. For 300 years, humanity had served the Galactic Council. They had bled for them. They had died for them. Human soldiers had fought on frozen moons and burning deserts, protecting alien worlds that looked down on them. Human engineers had built cities in the clouds for species who called them primitive. Human doctors had saved millions of alien lives while their own people received nothing but insults. And now this. The council speaker was a creature made of living crystal, tall and beautiful in a cold way. His body caught the light and scattered it into rainbows as he spoke. He was from the Velith Dominion, the oldest and most powerful of the elder races. When he talked, everyone listened. "The matter is decided," the speaker said, his voice like wind chimes in a storm. "The human colony called New Bizan will be transferred to the Three Axe Consortium. This is payment for the trade dispute of the Outer Rim." Admiral Park felt his blood run hot. New Bizan was home to 2 million humans. Families, children, dreams built over 50 years of hard work. And the trade dispute? Humanity had nothing to do with it. 2 alien empires had fought over shipping routes. And somehow humans were paying the price. It had always been this way, on Earth. In a bunker deep beneath the mountains of Korea, President Yoon Jio watched the same feed. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too much. Around her sat the most important people on Earth, but she barely noticed them. Her eyes were fixed on the crystal alien who's giving away her people like property. General Kim Tai-woo sat to her right. He was old, his face marked with scars from wars fought for the council. He had lost his left arm on a distant planet, fighting enemies that weren't his own. The council had given him a medal. He had never worn it. To the president's left sat Dr. Choi Nari, a young woman with tired eyes and brilliant mind. She led Earth's secret research program, the one the council knew nothing about. For 100 years, humanity's best scientists had worked in hidden laboratories, developing technology that would make the elder races tremble. "They're taking New Bizan," the president said quietly. Her voice was calm, but everyone heard the steel beneath it. "They've taken everything else," General Kim replied. "Our dignity, our children, our future. New Bizan is just the latest insult." Dr. Choi pulled up a hologram of her own. It showed thousands of ships, weapons platforms, and defense systems. All of it hidden. All of it waiting. "We're ready," she said simply. "We've been ready for 20 years. The president nodded slowly. She thought about her grandmother, who had told her stories of the early days after first contact. The elder races had seemed like gods then. They had technology that looked like magic. Humanity had been so eager to join them, to learn from them, to be part of something greater. But gods can be cruel. And the elder races were very cruel indeed. They had used humanity like tools. Human soldiers died in alien wars. Human workers built alien cities. Human scientists solved alien problems. And in return, humanity got a single seat on the council, limited territory, and endless contempt. "Enough," President Yoon said. The word was quiet, but it filled the room like thunder. She picked up a document from the table. It was simple paper with simple words, but it would change the galaxy forever. A formal withdrawal from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. Her hand did not shake as she signed it. "Send the recall order," she said. "Every human in the galaxy comes on. Every soldier, every engineer, every doctor, every worker. All of them, now." General Kim smiled for the first time in years. It was not a pleasant smile. The elder races won't understand what's happening. Not at first. No, the president agreed. They won't. They think we need them. They've never considered that they might need us. Across the galaxy, encrypted messages began to spread. On 100 different worlds, humans received the same order. Stop working. Pack your things. Come home. On the mining world of Kethros 7, human engineers looked at each other and nodded. They had kept the gravity stabilizers running for 60 years. Without them, the mines would collapse. They didn't care anymore. On the 3-Ax homeworld, human doctors closed their medical bags. They had operated the only hospital that could treat the consortium's genetic disorders. Now someone else could try it out in the trade corridors of the Velith Dominion. Human navigators shut down their stations. Only they knew the safe paths through the nebula storms. Only they could guide ships through the deadly clouds of gas and radiation. Now the paths would be empty. Ambassador Li Sijin was the last to leave the human embassy on the Council homeworld. She was an elegant woman who had spent 40 years smiling at aliens who despised her. She had bowed and scraped and begged for scraps of respect. No more. Before she left, she sent one final message to the council chambers. The crystal speaker received it during a routine meeting. His perfect face cracked slightly as he read it. "You never built anything yourselves," the message said. "You took from others and called it civilization. You used us like machines and treated us like animals. We smiled and worked and died for you, and you gave us nothing but contempt. So now we leave. Good luck." The speaker tried to respond, but the communication channel was already closed, permanently. That night, on Earth, Admiral Park Do-yoon finally stepped away from the bridge. He looked out at the stars one more time. They didn't look cold anymore. They looked like possibilities. And homes across the planet. Humans gathered around screens and listened to President Yoon's address. Her words were simple. "We are done being servants. We are done being used. From this day forward, we walk our own path. And if the galaxy burns behind us, that is not our concern. The galaxy would indeed burn, but humanity would rise from the ashes." The crystal speaker of the Velith Dominion laughed when he heard the news. It was a beautiful sound, like glass bells ringing in the wind. The other elder races joined him, their strange voices filling the council chamber with amusement. "The humans are leaving," the speaker announced. "How adorable. Let the children have their little rebellion. They will come crawling back when they realize how much they need us." Around him, the representatives of the 12 elder races nodded in agreement. The insectoid Kreth clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter. The floating gas beings of the Yoth collective bubbled with amusement. Even the silent stone creatures of the deep hollowed out what might have been a chuckle. None of them understood what was about to happen. The first signs appeared within days. On Kethros 7, the great mining world that produced half the galaxy's rare metals, the gravity stabilizers began to fail. Without human engineers to maintain them, the ancient machines sputtered and died. The mines, dug deep into the planet's unstable core, started to collapse. Thousands of 3-Ax workers fled to the surface, but there was nowhere to go. The transport ships that usually carried the ore away were gone. Human pilots had flown those ships. Now they sat empty on landing pads, their controls locked with codes only humans knew. By the end of the first week, Kethros 7 was a dead world. The mines had fallen into the planet's core. The explosions could be seen from space. On the 3-Ax homeworld, the panic was just beginning. The consortium had outsourced everything to humans over the centuries. It had seemed so clever at the time. Why waste 3-Ax lives on boring work when humans would do it for almost nothing? Now the factories stood silent. The power stations flickered and died. The farms, run by human agricultural experts, withered as no one remembered how to operate the automated systems. The great hospital where human doctors had worked day and night closed its doors forever. Elder Threax began to die. Their species suffered from a rare genetic disorder that only human medicine could treat. Without the doctors, there was no cure. Families watched their elders fade away, and their anger grew. "Where are the humans?" they demanded. "Bring them back." But the humans were gone. Every last one. The Velith Dominion discovered their own problems soon enough. Their beautiful crystalline cities, the pride of the galaxy, required constant maintenance. Human engineers had done this work for generations, carefully adjusting the resonance frequencies that kept the structures stable. Without maintenance, the crystals began to crack. The Song of Morning, the oldest city in the Dominion, collapsed on a quiet afternoon. 3 million Velith died in seconds, their bodies crushed beneath crystal that had stood for 10,000 years. The speaker stopped laughing then. Across the galaxy, the chaos spread like fire. Trade routes fell apart because human navigators were no longer there to guide ships through dangerous space. Colonies starved because human logistics experts had designed every supply chain. Military bases fell silent because human soldiers had been the backbone of every army. The elder races had built their civilization on human labor. They had never noticed because they had never cared to look. Ambassador Li Sujin watched the reports from Earth. She sat in a small apartment in Seoul, drinking tea and reading the news feeds with a quiet smile. For 40 years, she had begged the council for respect. For 40 years, she had been ignored, insulted, dismissed. Now the council was burning, and she felt nothing but peace. General Kim Taiwu called her that evening. His scarred face appeared on her screen, and she saw something in his eyes she had never seen before. Joy. "They're starting to understand," he said. "The Kreth swarm is already facing famine. Without human food distribution networks, they can't feed half their worlds. The Yoth Collective has lost contact with a dozen colonies because human communication experts maintained their relay stations." "And the Velith?" Lee asked. 6 more cities have fallen. The speaker has gone into hiding. They say he's afraid to show his face." General Kim paused. "They thought we were nothing. They thought we were just useful animals. Now they're learning the truth." On Earth, President Yoonjia addressed the planet once more. Her face was calm, but her words carried weight. "The galaxy is in chaos," she said. "The elder races are suffering. Many will ask if we should help them. Many will say we are being cruel." She paused, letting the silence stretch. "For 300 years, we helped them. We gave them everything. Our strength, our minds, our lives. And they gave us nothing but pain. They stole our colonies. They sent our children to die in their wars. They called us primitive while using us like slaves." Her eyes seemed to look directly at every human watching. "We owe them nothing. Let them learn what it means to stand alone." Dr. Choi Nari watched the address from her laboratory. Around her, scientists worked on the next generation of human technology. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days. Weapons that could shatter planets. Medical advances that could make humans nearly immortal. All of it hidden. All of it waiting. "They're going to come begging soon," she said to her assistant, a young man named Tan Minho. He nodded, adjusting a holographic display. "The council has already sent 3 requests for emergency meetings. President Yoon has ignored them all." "Good," Dr. Choi said. "Let them wait. Let them learn what it feels like to be ignored." Outside, the stars shone bright and cold. Somewhere out there, civilizations that had existed for millions of years were crumbling. The elder races, so proud and so ancient, were discovering a terrible truth. They had never been powerful. They had just been standing on human shoulders. And now humanity had stepped away, and they were falling. The chaos was only beginning. 6 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. In that time, the galaxy had transformed into something unrecognizable. Empires that had stood for millions of years now teetered on the edge of collapse. Worlds that had known nothing but peace burned with war and famine. And finally, the elder races came to beg. Captain Beak Hyjin commanded Defense Station Omega, the first line of Earth's new perimeter. She was a tall woman with short hair and eyes that had seen too much death. For 20 years, she had served in council wars, watching her friends die for aliens who never learned their names. Now she watched those same aliens approach, Earth-like beggars approaching a rich man's door. The council delegation arrived in 3 ships, each carrying representatives from the elder races. Their vessels were old and damaged, without human engineers to maintain them. The once beautiful ships had fallen into disrepair. They limped through space like wounded animals. Council vessels requesting permission to enter human space. Her communications officer reported. Captain Beak smiled coldly. Make them wait. She let them sit at the border for 3 days. Let them stare at the weapons platforms that surrounded Earth's solar system. Let them wonder at the technology they had never seen before. The Council had always believed humans were primitive, incapable of true innovation. Now they could see the truth. Finally, she allowed them to pass, but only after scanning their ships so thoroughly that the aliens felt violated. President Yunjia agreed to meet them, but she set the terms. The delegation would come to Earth. They would walk through human streets. They would see what humanity had built while the galaxy burned. The alien ambassadors landed in Seoul on a cold winter morning. Snow fell gently from gray skies, covering the city in white. The delegation stepped out of their shuttle and stopped in shock. They had expected to find a primitive world, barely surviving without council support. Instead, they found a city of wonders. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the clouds. Flying vehicles moved through the air in perfect patterns. Holographic displays showed news and art and music from 100 human worlds. The Crystal, speaker of the Velith, led the delegation. His body no longer sparkled with rainbow light. Cracks ran through his form, signs of stress and fear. Behind him walked representatives of all 12 elder races, each looking more broken than the last. Human citizens lined the streets, watching the aliens pass. There was no anger in their eyes, no hatred, just cold indifference. That indifference hurt more than any insult. General Kim Tai-woo waited at the gates of the government building. He stood in full military dress, his chest covered with medals from council wars. Wars he had fought for aliens who despised him. Wars that had cost him his arm. "Welcome to Earth," he said. His voice held no warmth. "The president will see you now." The meeting took place in a simple room with white walls and wooden furniture. President Yoon sat at one end of a long table. The alien delegation sat at the other. No refreshments were offered. No polite words were exchanged. "You wish to speak," the president said. "Speak." The crystal speaker rose, his broken body trembling. "Humanity must return to the council. The galaxy needs you. Without your people, civilizations are falling. Billions are dying. You cannot simply abandon us." Dr. Choi Nare laughed. It was not a kind sound. She stood beside the president, a holographic control device in her hand. "Watch," she said. The room darkened, and images appeared in the air. Ships, thousands of ships. Warships and cargo vessels and science ships and construction vessels. A fleet larger than anything the council had ever possessed. "This is humanity's true fleet," Dr. Choi said. "We hid it from you for 3 centuries. Every ship is more advanced than your best technology. Every weapon could destroy your mightiest fortress." The aliens stared in horror. They had believed humans were primitive. They had thought human technology was inferior. They had never imagined this. "We could have conquered you at any time," President Yoon said softly. "We chose not to. We chose to serve, to help, to build. And you repaid us with contempt." The speaker's crystal face cracked further. "We were wrong. We understand that now. Please, come back. We offer you full voting rights, equal territory, technology sharing, everything you ever wanted." Ambassador Lee Soo-jin stepped forward. She had requested permission to attend this meeting, and the president had agreed. For 40 years, Lee had represented humanity to the council. For 40 years, she had been treated like dirt. "Everything we ever wanted," she repeated. "What we wanted was respect. What we wanted was to be treated as equals. You had 300 years to give us that. You chose not to." She leaned forward, her eyes hard. "Now we want something different. We want reparations. Payment for every human soldier who died in your wars. Payment for every colony you stole. Payment for every insult, every injury, every humiliation." The speaker shook his crystal head. "We cannot pay such a debt. Our economies have collapsed. Our worlds are dying." "Then you have nothing to offer us," President Yoon said. She stood, signaling the meeting was over. "Return to your crumbling empires. Tell the council that humanity is not interested in being your servants again. Not now, not ever." The delegation left Earth empty-handed. Their ships limped back toward council space, carrying news of humanity's strength and humanity's refusal. Captain BK Jin watched them go from her station. She thought about friends she had lost. Soldiers who had died on alien worlds, fighting aliens' enemies. The council had never even sent letters of condolence. "Good riddance," she whispered. Back on Earth, General Kim Tae-woo stood beside President Yoon in her office. Outside, the snow continued to fall. "They'll be back," he said. "They have no other choice." The president nodded. "Let them come. Let them learn what it means to ask for help from those you once abused. We have time. We have strength. And we have very, very long memories." The chaos in the galaxy continued. And humanity watched, patient and cold, waiting for the right moment to reshape the stars. 1 year after humanity walked away, the Galactic Council shattered like glass dropped on stone. Lieutenant Han Ji-woo sat in the heart of Earth's deep Space Command, surrounded by screens showing the chaos across the stars. She was young, only 28 years old, but her eyes held wisdom beyond her years. Her job was to watch everything, report everything, and feel nothing. That last part was becoming difficult. "The three acts have declared war on the Velith Dominion," she reported to General Kim Tae-woo. "They blame them for driving humanity away. Fighting has already begun in 3 systems." General Kim nodded slowly. His face showed no surprise. He had expected this. When empires fall, they always look for someone to blame. The war had started over something small. The 3 Acts Consortium, starving and desperate, had tried to seize Velith food stores. The Velith, already broken by the collapse of their cities, had responded with ancient weapons they barely knew how to use. Now 2 of the greatest powers in the galaxy were burning each other alive. But that was not the worst of it. The Kreth swarm, the insectoid species that numbered in the trillions, faced extinction. Their hive worlds required precise food distribution networks to survive. Human logistics experts had designed those networks 200 years ago. Without them, the system collapsed. Whole hive worlds went dark. Billions of Kreth starved in their tunnels, waiting for food shipments that never came. The survivors turned on each other, ancient instincts overwhelming their civilization. What had been a unified species became 1,000 warring factions, each fighting for the last scraps of food. Lieutenant Han, watched the footage with hollow eyes. Kreth drones killing each other in the streets. Queens being torn apart by their own children. Worlds that had been peaceful for 1,000,000 years now covered in the bodies of the dead. They did this to themselves, she whispered. But the words felt empty. On Earth, Professor Shin Yoonji published her manifesto. She was a historian who had spent her life documenting humanity's suffering under council rule. Every insult, every stolen colony, every soldier who died forgotten on alien soil got her words spread across the planet like wildfire. They called us primitive, she wrote. They called us children. They laughed at our art, our music, our dreams. They used us like machines and discarded us like garbage. They never understood that children grow up. And when they do, they remember everything. Now the council burns. The elder races tear each other apart. And some will say we should help them. Some will say we are being cruel by standing aside. But I remember my grandfather, who served in council wars for 30 years and died without a pension. I remember my mother, who worked in Villith factories and was paid in scraps. I remember every human who suffered so that aliens could prosper. We owe them nothing. Let them learn what it means to stand alone. The manifesto was controversial. Some humans argued that they should help, that allowing billions to die was wrong regardless of past crimes. Debates raged in homes and streets and government halls. President Yoon Jia listened to all sides. Then she made her decision. We will not help those who harmed us, she announced. But we will not close our doors to everyone. Some species had been kind to humanity during the dark centuries. Small races, weak races, those who had no power in the council, but had shown humans basic decency. A species of gentle giants called the Morth had always treated human workers with respect. A race of aquatic beings called the Solani had protested when the council took human colonies to these species. Humanity extended a hand. Foreign Minister Moon Hae-jung led the outreach effort. He was a quiet man with a talent for reading people, human and alien alike. He traveled to the edges of council space, meeting with representatives of the forgotten races. Humanity remembers kindness, he told the Morth ambassador, a creature twice his height with sad eyes. We also remember cruelty. You were kind when kindness cost you nothing, but brought you no benefit. Now kindness will bring you everything. One by one, the small races pledged themselves to humanity. They brought their worlds, their resources, their people into humanity's protection. In return, they received food, medicine, technology, and something they had never had before. Respect. Meanwhile, the council's collapse accelerated. The Velith Dominion, once the greatest of the elder races, fractured into a dozen warring factions. Each faction claimed to be the true heir of the old empire. Each faction fought the others with weapons they barely understood. The crystal cities continued to fall. Without human engineers, no one knew how to stop the decay. Billions more died, their bodies buried beneath the ruins of ancient glory. The speaker himself was assassinated by his own guards. They blamed him for the catastrophe, for driving humanity away with his arrogance. His crystal body was shattered into 1,000,000 pieces and scattered across the dead fields of his homeworld. Lieutenant Han Ji-woo documented it all. Every battle. Every collapse. Every death. It was her job, and she did it well. But at night, she dreamed of the Kreth starving in their tunnels. She dreamed of Velith children crushed by falling crystal. She dreamed of worlds burning and screaming and dying. She told no one about the dreams. General Kim Tai-woo found her one morning, staring at her screens with red eyes. He sat beside her without speaking. They watched the chaos together in silence. Does it ever bother you? She finally asked. All this death? The general was quiet for a long moment. Every day, he said. But then I remember my soldiers. Good men and women who died fighting wars that weren't ours. The council never mourned them. They never even learned their names. He looked at her with old, tired eyes. The elder races created this galaxy. They built it on the backs of species they considered lesser. They used us and discarded us for millions of years. What's happening now isn't our fault. It's the natural consequence of their own cruelty. Lieutenant Han nodded slowly. She understood, even if understanding didn't make the dreams go away. Across the stars, the old order was dying. And from its ashes, something new was beginning to grow. Humanity stood at the center of it all, patient and strong, waiting for the right moment to build a better future. 5 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. The Council no longer existed. Its great chambers stood empty, its crystal halls cracked and dark. The elder races who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years were scattered, broken, reduced to shadows of their former glory. And humanity had risen. Admiral Park Da-Yun stood on the bridge of the UE's horizon, the same ship where he had watched the Council steal New Bizen so long ago. His hair was white now, his face lined with age, but his eyes still burned with purpose. Before him spread the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled. 10,000 ships, each gleaming with technology that would have seemed like magic 5 years before. They had come to witness the formal end of an era. The Council homeworld hung in space like a gray jewel. Once, it had been the center of galactic civilization. Now it was a graveyard. The crystal towers of the Velith lay in ruins. The great chambers where elder races had debated the fate of billions sat empty and cold. Admiral Park felt no joy looking at the destruction. Only a quiet satisfaction that justice had finally come. On Earth, President Yoonjia prepared for her greatest address. She stood before cameras that would broadcast her words to every corner of human space and beyond. To the 47 systems that now flew the human flag. To the allied species who had joined their cause. To the remnants of the elder races who watched from their ruins. 5 years ago, humanity made a choice, she began. We chose to stop being servants. We chose to stop accepting disrespect as the price of survival. We chose to walk away from those who had used us and abused us for 3 centuries. Her voice was calm but carried across the stars. The galaxy told us we would fail. The elder races laughed and said we would come crawling back. They were wrong. We built our own future. We created our own strength. And when the old order collapsed, we were ready to build something new. In the audience chamber on Earth, the representatives of the allied species listened with tears in their eyes. The Morth ambassador, that gentle giant who had always treated humans with kindness, wept openly. The Solani delegation swam in their water tanks, their songs of joy filling the room. They had been forgotten by the Council, dismissed as weak, unimportant, beneath notice. Now they stood as equals beside humanity, part of something greater than they had ever imagined. Dr. Choi Nari unveiled the gifts of the new age. Terraforming engines that could turn dead worlds into gardens within years. Medical technology that could cure any disease, extend any life. Ships that could cross the galaxy in days instead of months. These technologies were our secret, she said. We developed them in hidden laboratories while the Council thought us primitive. Now we share them freely with all who stand beside us. Not as masters sharing scraps with servants. As partners building a future together. On New Bizen, the colony the Council had tried to steal, a celebration filled the streets. The 2 million humans who lived there had watched their world become the symbol of humanity's determination. They had refused to leave. They had built defenses. They had prepared to die rather than submit. Now their world was the jewel of human space. Beautiful gardens covered what had once been bare rock. Children played in parks that should never have existed. The future that the Council tried to steal had become brighter than anyone had dreamed. Ambassador Li Sujin stood in the center of New Business Capital, welcoming the first class of alien students to the Human Academy of Sciences. Young Morth and Solani and a dozen other species sat beside human students, ready to learn together. For 300 years, we learned from the elder races, Li told them. They taught us that power means taking from others. That civilization means standing on the backs of the weak. That respect is something only the strong deserve. She smiled warmly at the young faces before her. We reject those lessons. Today, we teach something different. That true strength comes from lifting others up. That true civilization means building together. That every species, every person, every life deserves dignity and respect. Captain Beak Haijin, now Admiral Beak, watched the ceremony from orbit. Her defense station had become the first port of call for species seeking humanity's protection. She had seen broken refugees arrive with nothing and leave with hope. She thought about the wars she had fought for the Council, the friends she had lost, the price humanity had paid for centuries of servitude. And she thought about the future spreading out before them like an endless ocean of stars. We made the right choice, she whispered to herself. General Kim Taiwu had retired at last. His days of war were over. He spent his time now in a small house in the mountains, writing his memoirs. Professor Shin Yunji visited him often, and they talked about the old days, the dark days, and the new dawn that had finally come. Do you have any regrets? She asked him one evening, as they watched the sun set over the peaks. He thought for a long moment. I wish we had walked away sooner. I wish we hadn't waited for them to push us too far. But maybe we needed those centuries of pain. Maybe we needed to remember what it felt like to be nothing, so we would never treat others that way. Lieutenant Han Ji-woo had risen to become director of the Federation Intelligence Service. Her job was no longer to watch empires fall, but to ensure the new order stood strong. The nightmares had faded over the years, replaced by dreams of building and growing and becoming something wonderful. She sent her final historical report to the archives. The old order believed they were using humanity. They saw us as tools, as servants, as animals clever enough to be useful but not deserving of respect. They never realized we were learning, watching, and when the moment came, we were ready. We did not conquer the galaxy. We did not seek revenge or destruction. We simply walked away from those who didn't deserve us. And in doing so, we changed everything. Foreign Minister Moon Hae-jun signed the final treaty that created the Alliance of Free Worlds. It was a partnership of equals, built on mutual respect rather than hierarchy. 30 species stood together, committed to the principles humanity had forged in the fires of their suffering. And across the stars, a new song spread. It spoke of a small blue world whose people had been underestimated. It spoke of patience and endurance, of quiet strength and unbreakable will. It spoke of those who had been nothing becoming everything. The old galaxy was dead. But from its ashes, something beautiful had been born. Humanity had not come to rule the stars. They had come to show the stars what civilization truly meant. And the universe would never be the same.